By the end of this, you will understand that the most famous monster in Greek myth was never the criminal. She was the victim, and the gods wrote the verdict. In the oldest surviving account, Hesiod's Theogony, Medusa is not born a monster at all. She is one of 3 sisters, and the only one who is mortal, the only one who can be killed. 300 years later, the Roman poet Ovid added the detail that condemns everyone but her. A temple, a god, a woman blamed for what was done to her. Picture the scene the Greeks chose to remember. A severed head, lifted to the light, its eyes still working. Men frozen to stone mid-step. This is a case file, not a fairy tale, and the accused is innocent. Before the snakes, before the stone, Medusa knelt at the altar of the goddess, who would one day destroy her. She was a priestess of Athena. Her duty was chastity. Her vow was permanent. In Ovid's Metamorphoses, Book 4, she is named the most beautiful woman in the region around the temple, and her hair is the feature the poets praise above every other. Suitors came in numbers. She refused them all. The vow held. Understand what a priestess of Athena actually was. Not an ornament, a woman who had surrendered her own future, marriage, children, a household of her own, to stand guard over a goddess's sanctuary. She had given up everything the Greek world told a woman to want. In return, she was promised the protection of the most powerful virgin goddess on Olympus. That promise was a lie. Hesiod, writing 7 centuries earlier, knew a different Medusa, one of 3 Gorgon sisters who lived at the edge of the world, beyond the stream of ocean. 2 of them were immortal. Medusa alone could die. Hesiod records this without explanation, as though it were simply a fact of her birth. The detail matters more than it looks. Of the 3 sisters, only one could be killed. Only one could be made into a trophy. The myth had chosen its victim before the crime was ever committed. Whatever version you take, the radiant priestess of Rome's poets or the mortal sister of Greece's oldest text, one thread runs through both. Medusa did nothing wrong. She kept a vow. She guarded a temple. She was, by every account that survives, devout. And devotion in this story is what gets her sentenced. In the version that made her famous, the crime happens inside the temple itself. Poseidon, god of the sea, brother of Zeus, wanted her. Ovid does not soften the verb. The Latin is vitiasse. He violated her, and he did it in Athena's own sanctuary on consecrated ground at the foot of the goddess's statue. Sit with the geography of that. The one place on earth where Medusa was promised safety was the exact place she was attacked. The protection she had bought with her entire life failed at the precise moment she needed it. Now watch what justice does next. Athena returns to her defiled temple. She finds it profaned, and she turns, not on Poseidon, a god she could not touch, but on the mortal woman who had been assaulted there. Ovid says the goddess turned her face away, as if the sight were the offense. Then she changed Medusa's celebrated hair into serpents. The feature that drew the god became the mark of a monster. This is the hinge of the entire myth, and almost no one says it plainly. Medusa was not cursed for a sin. She was cursed for being a victim. The goddess of wisdom, the deity Athens named itself after, the figure stamped on its silver coins, looked at a raped priestess and decided the priestess was the problem. Hold the paradox in view. The victim was sentenced, and the god who attacked her walked free. And it grows darker from here. Because Athena was not finished with her. The punishment was exact. Athena did not simply disfigure her, she arranged it so that any man who looked at Medusa would die where he stood. A woman attacked for her beauty was remade, so her face could never be looked upon again. Isolation was the sentence. Stone was the instrument. She was sent to the edge of the world, and there she waited, alone, for the next man the gods would send. He was already on his way. His name was Perseus, and he came on an errand of vanity. A king named Polydectes wanted him gone. The young man stood between the king and his mother. So Polydectes demanded an impossible gift, the head of the gorgon. It was a death sentence dressed as a quest. Perseus accepted it. He did not go alone. According to Apollodorus, in the Bibliotheca, he was outfitted by the gods themselves. Hermes gave him a blade, Hades gave him a cap of invisibility, and Athena, the same goddess who had created the monster, gave him a polished bronze shield and told him exactly how to use it. He was to look only at her reflection, never at her directly. Consider who armed the hunter. The deity who turned Medusa into a creature no one could face also handed a man the one tool that let him face her and live. Athena did not punish Medusa once. She engineered the second strike decades later and aimed the blade. Perseus found her sleeping. That is the part the heroic telling leaves out. There was no battle, no duel. The most dangerous monster in Greek myth was killed in her sleep by a man who never once met her eyes, using a mirror given to him by her first tormentor. Apollodorus is plain about it. He struck while she slept, and Athena guided his hand. From her severed neck sprang Pegasus, the winged horse, and Chrysaor, a golden warrior, the children of Poseidon, born in the instant of her death. Even her killing was made to serve the god who had assaulted her. And the head did not stop working. Its gaze still turned the living to stone. Perseus carried it across the world as a weapon, against his enemies, against a sea monster, against a rival at a wedding feast. Dead, she was more useful to them than she had ever been alive. A victim turned into an instrument. The victim became the villain by design. The design is visible in who told the story and why. The version most people know, snakes, stone, a hero's triumph, is the version that flatters Perseus. He is the protagonist. For him to be a hero, the thing he killed has to be a monster. The myth needs Medusa guilty because a sleeping woman murdered for a king's grudge is not a legend anyone wants to raise a statue to. There is a second tell, and it is carved in bronze. Medusa's face, the Gorgonean, was set on shields, breastplates, and temple gates across the Greek world for centuries. Soldiers carried the face of the woman the gods had condemned because they believed it would keep them safe. The supposed monster became the most common protective image in the ancient Mediterranean. A people do not put a true horror on their armor, they put a guardian there. The Greeks kept two records at once. In the story, she is the threat. On the shield, she is the shield. In the 20th century, the case was reopened. Writers returned to Ovid's own words, to the assault in the temple, to the goddess who punished the wrong person, and read what had been on the page the whole time. The serpents were never the original sin. They were the cover story. Medusa is now one of the most recognized faces on Earth, printed on a fashion house's emblem, reproduced on 1,000 walls. Most people who wear her could not tell you what was done to her. They know the monster. No one told them about the priestess. The gods wrote the verdict. The poets carried it for 3,000 years. The evidence was sitting in the oldest text the entire time. She kept her vow. They turned her to stone for keeping it.